Welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, July 26, 2019. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. As SVG continues to develop its medical marijuana industry, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, Boto Caesar, says his government's approach to the industry is not timid, as the opposition would want the public to believe. Contributing to the debate in Parliament on Thursday on the Drug Prevention and Misuse Amendment Bill 2019, Minister Caesar said the government's approach is calculated and strategic, ensuring that the country keeps in line with international laws on drugs, conventions and treaties.
End game. Canada took 17 years to reach their end game. It is a work in progress, and we have to take our time step by step, bit by bit. Because it is usually said, why we can't do like Uruguay? Why we can't just legalize it like Uruguay? But if you read carefully, Mr. Speaker, and you have an appreciation of what was done in Uruguay, you would realize that to get to their end game, they had to put a comprehensive regulatory framework in place.
Noting that the development of SVG's medical marijuana industry is a work in progress, the Agriculture Minister said the incremental approach is based on scientific evidence with close monitoring.
This bill is proportionate. It is protective of the well-being of our citizens. It is rehabilitative, and it does not offend or breach our international legal obligations in the international treaties and conventions that we are a party. Because of this, Mr. Speaker, I fully support this bill.
Opposition MP Major Sinclair Leacock said there is a need for a balancing act in dealing with a marijuana industry. Leacock said that he knows that the country has to be mindful of its own circumstances and be able to navigate between international conventions and prohibitions. The opposition MP, however, noted that the matter should not be politicized and whatever is being done should be done in the best interest of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He raised the concern about the impact the development of the marijuana industry can have on the country's labor market.
If the ganja man is paying $100 per hour or per day to work on his or her farm, the banana farmers, Dashin Edo, Ginger, Tanya, Eddie, horticulturists, can't find labor. Probably shouldn't go all the way over to the horticulture side, but that food sustainability begins to get an increasing challenge because we begin to abdicate or lose sight and sense that we still have a food security issue. We have to also be able to feed ourselves.
The opposition MP said another issue which must be looked into is that of land use, not just for marijuana cultivation but for other purposes, which he said could place nationals at a disadvantage.
We cannot be unmindful that a generation of Vincentians may never ever be able to own a portion of land for him or herself because A, it's either unavailable, or B, land prices have got so out of hand that we become strangers or foreigners in our own homeland because we ignored the balancing act in developing an industry thinking through only of short-term gains.
Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Luke Brown, said that the amendments to the marijuana law has far-reaching benefits for the country's health sector.
The publication indicated that in 2013, 182 million people between the ages of 15 and 64 use cannabis for non-medicinal purposes globally. Almost 200 million people. And this publication, Mr. Speaker, talks specifically about the impact of non-medical cannabis use on health. And this is an important area. This is an area in which I am deeply interested, the impact of non-medicinal cannabis use on health and the health system responses to cannabis use disorders.
Minister Brown said he appreciates that the amendments were carefully drafted following international guidelines.
A person who does some things, certain things, is guilty of an offense. Subject, and I'd like to read it, Mr. Speaker, because this is the gravamen of the matter here. This is the meat of the matter. This is related to most of what the amendment we are discussing today is all about. So, it says here, subject to subsection 1, a person found in possession of the following controlled drugs in quantities of more than, and I go to the case of cannabis or cannabis resin, 15 grams of cannabis or cannabis resin, shall be deemed to be in possession of such controlled drug for the purpose of supplying it to another or for drug trafficking. So in other words, if you had more than 15 grams of cannabis, you would have been deemed to be in possession of that for supplying it to another or for the purpose of drug trafficking.
In her contribution to the debate, Opposition Senator K. Bacchus-Batiste questioned why the government was being limited in its approach in dealing with the marijuana law. On the issue of possession, as outlined in the proposed amendments, Bacchus-Batiste questioned why the government is still seeking to extract fines from persons.
Many issues arise here. How is the police to decide whether it is more than 56 grams or not? Are they going to be walking around with a scale to weigh this drug? Are they going to just use the intuition? Or is it going to open up our youths to more arbitrary action by the police? I'm very concerned by giving the police this amount of power. Now we are saying you can have it and it will be guarded as possession if it is less than 56, but you must pay some money into the coffers. Pay some money in if you accept that you have it for possession. And if you don't accept it, then you have to go to the magistrate, where the magistrate will decide whether you're guilty or not. So that's why I say, is it a money making? Is it money making to have it for possession?
In relation to persons who may have had prior marijuana convictions for possession for 56 grams or less, Bacchus-Batiste said instead of a conviction being spent, as outlined in the proposed amendments, these persons should instead have their records expunged.
The distinction between a conviction, Mr. Speaker, being spent and expunged. That's why the Antigua Act says spent and expunged. St. Vincent just speaks about spent convictions. What is one of the main distinction between a conviction that is spent and one that is expunged? If it's expunged, it was never there. If it is spent and you are found guilty, it impacts sentencing. When you go to court, you cannot say you have a clean record. So any person who would have had 6 and 7 records for marijuana, Mr. Speaker, even though it may be spent, it is not expunged unless the Act says it is. And so you can come to court and find that you've been charged with a different offense, and the court will not treat you as being a virgin to the law.
In other news, unemployment and poverty are a few of the problems and challenges that Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said continue to plague this country despite efforts being made to improve these areas. Reflecting on the 40 years of SVG being an independent state at the launch of the Renewal at 40 program, PM Gonsalves said while SVG can boast of many achievements over the past 40 years, these challenges have to be addressed.
These problems include continued high unemployment, pockets of intractable indigence, though both poverty and indigence has declined. There is areas of our city which are in decay and in search for a renewal. There's a problem of a lack of sufficient competitiveness in economic enterprises.
The labor force and productivity in SVG were also identified as challenges, as well as crime and the division in society because of politics, which the Prime Minister said are issues that have to be worked on collectively.
Less than optimal citizen security as a consequence of some serious crimes, including against women. A continuing debilitating patriarchy in the distribution of power in the society, and a coarsening of public discourse, including on social media. Too high levels of political divisiveness in our land, and a host of contemporary challenges to good governance arising from institutional weaknesses and troubling and malign external influences, pressures or bullying.
The Prime Minister said acknowledgement is key, and as the country observes 30 years of independence, it is time to have a renewing of minds and overcome problems and challenges collectively as a nation. Several persons were rushed to the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital today following a vehicular accident in the Montrose area. The accident involved a truck that crashed into the American University compound. Larissa Pugsley-Kidd tells us more in this report.
The loaded truck crashed into a wooden canteen structure on the compound of the American University, obliquely opposite the CWSA. However, before it got there, it destroyed a concrete boundary wall that separates the university and the private property. One witness said he narrowly escaped from the truck as he was doing some work on the university compound.
At the gate, they were doing some painting, right? And then I heard this song just up above there. So when I look up, I see the green Jeep getting spin in the road by the big truck, right? And then after the truck pushed the Jeep back over there, like I know like the guy didn't have no brakes on, and he just come straight in the yard. The truck just run straight in the yard. I had to just get out the way. Lick off the gate and run straight in the shop.
Who was there?
The lady who does normally be in the shop, she was in there and somebody else was in there.
I hear so. When I check now, I hear bang. And I look now, I hear like when a vehicle going up now, I'm looking for mashed bricks. When I do look here now, I hear like something here bang. So when I do run up now, I hear a lady here so crying out and a lady inside the tuck shop there crying as well. So we go up there and try to get the lady out, and people down here come and try to get the fat lady, because a thick lady was here. So they get she out and the ambulance come and took them out.
It was reported that 2 persons were inside of the truck, which include the driver and the passenger. 2 persons were also in the canteen, a woman who was hit and thrown over into a nearby gutter. The Advanced Health Center is located in close proximity where the accident occurred, and its doctor and nurse were some of the first responders. Dr. Conrad Ned said it was only natural that they do what is required as medical practitioners, which is to help save lives.
They had determined that the person who had who appeared to have the most injuries was actually trapped between the vehicle and the concrete building, and so we were able to assist. What we did was to try to have a firm board so that we could support her spine and gently, gradually move her so that we could remove her from that space. But it is natural for persons who are medically trained to want to help in a situation like that, and we're just doing our civic duty by trying to see how we could respond and help appropriately. But she was fully conscious, alert. There was another man who was trapped, as he was the driver of the vehicle, and eventually other persons assisting him were able to get him out. A few other persons were injured, but I did not recognize any life-threatening injuries at the time. So.
The owner of the private property said not much damage was done to her building.
The damage on the house is just the pipe. All the pipe fittings destroyed behind there, and the wall. Right? That's basically it. But the majority of the damage is from Mosa's building there, the cafeteria and the partition wall with the boundary.
Reporting for SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
SVG will again be participating in this year's CARIFest activities, which will be held in Trinidad and Tobago from August 16 to the 24th. Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports Cecil Sesmaki told SVG-TV News that a contingent of close to 40 persons will be traveling to the Twin Island Republic, where they will showcase SVG's mixed culture under the tagline, Vinci Mise.
We are going with our A++ game. Some of the top artists in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Vinci Mise, that's the tagline that we will be using, and I think we are all aware of the fact that last CARIFest in Barbados we had the most outstanding contingent. We intend to repeat that in Trinidad and Tobago, so that will be during the month of August.
Minister Mackey said that they are now fine-tuning preparation, noting that the delegation will include a number of local performing artists.
The event will consist of 33 artists, and we'd have management team of about 7 persons that will go with them to ensure that we have all the necessary expertise where music is concerned, where mixing is concerned, technology is concerned, overall management, because when you go out on such occasions, there is need for tight management, negotiations for certain things to be put in place, and therefore the management team needs to be strong.
A number of Caribbean countries have indicated their participation at this year's 14th CARIFest event, which will be held at the Queen's Park Savannah in Trinidad and Tobago. As the issue of food wastage becomes a topic of critical importance worldwide, the agricultural science and entrepreneurship students of the SVG Community College, along with 2 interns from Canada, have devised an innovative way that can assist in ensuring the reduction of food wastage while at the same time contribute towards its economic development. This venture is a production of banana wine, which is obtained from overripe bananas. On Monday, July 29th, the SVG Community College will host a one-day wine tasting exhibition at its Division of Technical Education in Arnesville in an effort to showcase the work of its students, while at the same time educating the public on how agro-processing plays a vital role in food security and the reduction of food wastage. The college said the initiative will also enhance the domestic production of banana. Monday's exhibition is expected to commence at midday.